Hello everybody, Bruce Elgort here with a short video on color contrast in web design. Some of you may be asking yourselves, what is color contrast? Well, it's essentially the difference between two colors. The amount of color contrast that we use in our web designs typically varies depending upon the part of the page that we're designing for. We may use the dark background with a light colored font for the heading and the footer. We may use a different background and text color for the content area, maybe one for an aside or sidebar. It all depends, but we use color to differentiate various sections of our website. Now, what you want is a high contrast between the text on your web page and the background color of the element that it's contained on or within. And just know that when the contrast gets too high, the contrast between the elements on your page may not look very professional. So it takes a lot of balance between design and getting the proper color contrast ratios, which I'll talk about on the next slide, correct. And it's not so much a matter of being correct, but it's having ratios of color between the text and the background color that are sufficient enough for people who have, say, color blindness can differentiate between. And I think you may all know this, right, that the greatest contrast occurs between the colors black and white. Now, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, have an entire section on the use of color. And they have guidelines for level A, AA, and AAA. Now, AA requires that the contrast ratio be at least 4.5 to 1 for normal text, right? Text within, say, paragraphs, and 3 to 1 for larger text, such as text that may be contained in your headings or hero content. Now, also, a contrast ratio of at least 3 to 1 for graphics and user interface components, such as forum input borders, right? The borders that appear on forum input controls. Now, level AAA requires a contrast ratio of at least 7 to 1 for normal text and 4.5 to 1 for large text. Now, that's some pretty high contrast ratios. So for now, I want you to think about when you design your pages aiming for the AA level, which is 4.5 to 1 for normal text and 3 to 1 for large text. Now, there are two sites that I use when calculating color contrast. The first is this contrast-ratio.com. And on the left-hand side here, you can see where my mouse is moving back and forth, the word background, and on the right side, where my mouse is moving back and forth, text color, right? So if I put here, right, for a text color, say, I'll just do black, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll do white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You can see that I have a contrast of 21. Now, notice this circle in the middle of the page is green. That means we have the proper contrast ratio. Now, if I do something like this, I'll do a blue here, 9, 9. And you can see with white, we get a contrast ratio of 5.99. Green is good. But if I go into the grays, I go to this DA, you can see here that I have 4.29 as a contrast ratio, and the color of the circle has changed from green to kind of like a warning orangish color, or a warm orangish color for that matter. So you can play around with this kind of stuff, and you can even click on swap colors, right? Of course, they're still going to be the same because it's just the difference between the colors, right? The ratio, right? So that's that site. The other site that I like here is this webaim.org site, which allows you to test for AA and AAA levels by moving these sliders back and forth. So you see over here where my mouse is moving, where it says contrast ratio, I have 4.98 to 1, which is good. However, if I keep going up here, you can see I lost the green background and I'm failing on normal text. But on larger text for WCAG AA compliance, it passes, right? Because it's 3 to 1 for large text. Again, it all depends on the size of the text. So again, I'll go through these sites. It's contrast-ratio.com. You want to bookmark that site. And same with this webaim.org URL. So what I want to show you now is a sample site, and you're looking at it. It's the typical, header, nav, main content area, a side or a sidebar, and a footer down here, right? Looks okay, right? But there's actually an issue with the color contrast, and I'm going to give you a couple seconds to look over the page. I'll scroll up and down, and let me know if you can see where you think there is a problem. Okay, well, have you given it a thought? I'll tell you where it is. It's not in the header, it's not in the nav, it's not here, but it's over here. It's this white text on this blue background. And if I go into my style sheet here and I grab that color, which is this color right here, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back to my color contrast site, my ratio, the contrast-ratio site. I'm going to put that in for the background, get rid of the semicolon, and then go to the white color, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see that my contrast ratio is not 4.5, but it's 3.94. So what may look okay to you is something that you need to check out. Now, if I do make that color black, right? Whoops. If I go here and I go just make this black, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see that I have a contrast ratio of 5.31 to 1. And if I go into my style sheet, right, and I change that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I go back to my page, right, my demo page, whoop, I made the wrong thing black. Okay, so let me just go back here. That is the aside. What I wanted to do is do the links in the aside. And right here is where I should have done them. But this is 2, 3, 4. Okay. And now if I go back here, you can see that I have black. And the color contrast, according to the contrast ratio, the site is within the proper guideline. So I hope you enjoyed this short video and learned a couple things about color contrast. Use these two resources and refer to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines for the use of color on your sites. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Thanks a bunch.